Welcome back to the Betting with Babies podcast, the ultimate guide for sports betting dads. Each week, we break down our best bets, rank our top touchdown scorers, and of course, we dive into the dad zone where we share valuable tips, stories, and perspectives of being the best dads you can be during an exciting sports season. I'm your host, Mr.Clutch, and unfortunately, I am riding solo for another week. As they say, if you want to get things done right, you got to get them done yourself. But the reality is it's been difficult with schedules to get the whole crew on here, and we wanted to make sure that we got this podcast out so that you can get at least some insights into how we look at this Thursday night game and some of the look-ahead lines that we're leaning on for week 2 of the NFL. So let's get right to it. Tonight, we've got a game with the Dolphins against the Buffalo Bills. These are two teams who typically do not like each other, but the Bills have had the best of the Dolphins over the last 7 to 8 games. Josh Allen is 7-0 against the Dolphins, which is pretty incredible. And Dolphins typically struggle with mobile quarterbacks in general, and you saw what Josh Allen can do with his feet. And so this is an interesting game to try and handicap. But we're going to give you some of the insights that we're seeing as far as how the money's coming in, what the betting handle looks like currently as we're recording, and overall the public perception that we're seeing with social media impressions. So as of right now, the majority of the public money is coming in on the Bills. About 63% of the total bets are on the Bills. But the Sharpz seem to be leaning more towards the Dolphins, with the early line movement going to Miami and the Dolphins getting a bigger bets that are coming in on the Dolphins. So the Dolphins represent more than 60% of the total cash, but only 33% of all of the bets. So that means the bigger bets are coming in on the Dolphins. Big bets typically mean sharp action coming in. The total has come down from 51 to currently 47.5. It's since moved a little bit, 47, 47.5, 48, 48.5 on some books. So I see this closing around 48.5, 49, and it's pointing towards the under. A lot of big money has come in on the under. Now, again, this is sharp action. You've got 73% of the cash on the under, but only 30% of the bets. So the public likes the over, even though in primetime games, the under has hit significantly more, over 60% in the last 4 years. And in AFC East games also like to come in under. So the fact that the public is coming in on the over has a lot to do with the social media impressions we're seeing and some of the QB stats that are getting thrown around from Tua and Josh Allen. So make sure if it's something is ending up on your news feed, you're likely too late and it's lost a lot of its value. So try not to get too excited when you see some historic stat that's being shared on a mainstream media page or on your social media feed. Typically, that means there was value. It's likely gone, and you might want to think about being on the other side of that public perception. There's some key trends that you should know about before this game. The Buffalo Bills are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games against division opponents. The Dolphins, meanwhile, are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 Thursday night games. They play very well under the lights, especially at home, where their stadium is designed to put the sunlight and all the heat on that visitor's bench. Really genius engineering by the owners of the Miami Dolphins. If you ever go to a Dolphins game, if you're sitting on your team side, the visiting side, you are directly in the sun. It is very hot and very difficult to see. And the benches for the Buffalo Bills will be going through that tonight. Josh Allen, as we mentioned, has dominated the Dolphins, mostly on his feet. With rushing touchdowns, rushing yards, averaging over 7.5 attempts per game against the Dolphins. And typically the Dolphins struggle against mobile quarterbacks. I mean, you see that with Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, any of those quarterbacks that can stretch the ball outside of the tackles and extend the play with their feet, the Dolphins have a little bit of trouble against. And I look for them to really lean on that today, especially with the secondary that the Dolphins have and that new contract that Jalen Ramsey just got. He's going to be ready to lock down on primetime tonight. So look for the running game to be one of the primary goals for the Buffalo Bills tonight. Now look for some player props to watch. We're going to highlight 2 player props that we see some value on. Obviously, the Josh Allen anytime touchdown has been an absolute weapon. He has gotten in against the Dolphins in the last 3 games. He's had multiple rushing touchdowns in week 1. And so a Josh Allen anytime TD is a good one. But we like to find a little bit more value. And the one that we're looking at is Cook. We like Cook to get in the end zone tonight, the running back for the Buffalo Bills. He had 15 carries last week in a game where they had to play from behind. And if they can slow the pace down a little bit more, you think the team is definitely going to be game planning to try and stop Josh Allen. We like Cook to be the one to get in the end zone. Now, he can do that on the ground or in the air, and he's proven to be a great pass catching option for the Buffalo Bills. So we like that Cook touchdown line more like plus 150 versus the Josh Allen plus 100. We also like the Tyreek Hill over receiving yards. Now, it's always good to bet on Tyreek Hill over, but specifically this week where they've got a banged up backfield. You got Mostert, who's banged up, and Achane, who's banged up, which leaves Josh Wilson Jr. And, a serviceable back, but the third option on the depth chart. So you'd expect them to limit the carries in that area, try to extend it to their big play receivers and tight end. And Tyreek Hill is likely going to be the beneficiary of some of the big passing plays that the Dolphins like to run. So give me the over. It only takes one play for Tyreek Hill to hit the over. We saw that last week with an 80-yard plus touchdown reception against the Jags in the second half. So some key takeaways that you're going to want to know before you put in a bet on this game. The Dolphins, currently the favorites of this game at -3, and the over at 48.5 right now on most lines. We're going to give a same game parlay, giving you a little bit of insight into what we're betting for our VIPs this week. So we're going to tease up the Buffalo Bills in the first leg up to 8.5. So plus 8.5 for the Bills. I think that's a safe bet for a game where the Bills could absolutely win this game outright. But give me some extra points on the road in the heat in prime time in an early AFC East divisional matchup. For the second leg, we talked about Tua Tagovailoa, and we like him to lean a little bit more on the passing, and we're going to go over 1.5 touchdowns. We think they can move the ball in the air, and I think they're going to lean a little bit more on that with a banged up backfield. The third leg is our guy Moss, who's going to get in the end zone here for the Buffalo Bills. I keep saying Moss this whole time. I meant to say Cook, James Cook, so I apologize for that. So you've got Buffalo Bills plus 8.5, James Cook anytime touchdown, Tua Tagovailoa over 1.5 touchdown passes, and we're going to take an alternate line with Josh Allen at plus 25 rushing yards. Josh Allen could very much get over his normal line here, but it is getting heavily bet, and the odds on that one are pretty high. I could see something crazy happening here in Vegas, walking away with a big bag on the Josh Allen over. So we're going to tease it down a little bit to 25 plus rushing yards. That is a plus 630 on FanDuel. They're giving out a profit boost. And if you're new to FanDuel, definitely take a look at our link below. We can get you a great sign-up bonus. But if you use the profit boost on this same game parlay, it brings it to plus 945, which is some great value for a 4-leg parlay. We're putting $100 to win $1,045. We will post that ticket on the page. But for those of you who are listening to this video now, you're likely going to get better odds and closer to the odds that we put on our slip and locked in last night. So that's it for our Thursday night football. We'll do a quick look ahead to the NFL. As I mentioned, I went to Vegas last week to join the Circa Million contest. And so I want to give you an idea of sort of what I'm looking at for week 2 of the NFL. There's a lot of lines that I like. We can't enter total bets into the Circa competition, but if I wanted to highlight 2 total numbers that I like the under 43 in the Giants and the Washington Commanders game. Those division games typically go under, and these are 2 teams that are going to lean more on their defense than offense this year. I also like the under 51.5 for the Tampa Bay Bucks and Detroit Lions. 2 underrated defenses. So give me the under in that game. And then as far as picks that I'm considering for the Circa Million, I love Pittsburgh. The way Pittsburgh looked last week, you got Mike Tomlin defense and J.J. Watt. There is absolutely no way that Mike Tomlin defense is going to let a rookie quarterback beat them with Bo Nix. It's just not going to happen. That line's at 2.5. Give me that line. That, as of right now, is going to be my biggest bet of the week. But make sure to check back and join our VIP when we post this ticket on Friday evening. The second game that I like is the Seattle Seahawks up against New England Patriots. New England got a great win up against Cincinnati, but by no means do I think that they are a real team this year. Seattle, on the other hand, Kenneth Walker is a little bit banged up, but they're just a great scheme fit. They got a little bit sloppy in the second half of that game at the end, and they were just terrible in the first half against the Broncos. I'm gonna throw that into week 1 rust, and I'm gonna say both these teams sort of normalize to their true value, and I like the Seattle Seahawks at -3. Some other games that we're looking at, the Carolina Panthers looked terrible last week, but that line's at +6.5. That's a big line for a home team. I'm leaning Carolina to bounce back at +6.5. And then I'll give you my favorite prop of the week right now is Cooper Kupp over 7.5 receptions. These are all leans except for Pittsburgh, which means we've only locked in the Pittsburgh. We only like to give out plays that we actually bet. So I want to be very clear. As of right now, when we're recording, the only locked in bet is Pittsburgh at -2.5 and Cooper Kupp above 7.5 receptions. The others are leans, which we will circle back and confirm with our VIP members on Friday and Saturday. So make sure to join our VIP membership if you're not a member. And as always, we're going to drop our pod picks from the podcast crew on Sunday morning, and we'll keep track of our records throughout the year so you know who's hot and who's not. Next, we'll quickly get into the touchdown scores. I'll give you 3 touchdown scores that I'm looking at. The first one, we're going to go with someone who's probably not a big surprise, but I like Derrick Henry to get in the end zone again. I'm probably going to stay on this Derrick Henry train until it fails me. But it didn't in week 1. And that was a game where they were behind for most of that game. And he still was able to get a lot of carries, and he was able to get in the end zone. So in a game where I expect the Ravens to be in the lead against Las Vegas, I think they're going to lean more on Derrick Henry, which is going to give him more carries, which is going to give him even more chances to get in the end zone. So give me a Derrick Henry touchdown. The second one, going to a little bias, but I'm going back to my New York Jets, and we're going to Garrett Wilson. I think Breece Hall is getting sort of Christian McCaffrey type credit here. So he's -200 almost on the touchdown score. So we're going to drop below Breece, and we're going to look at Garrett Wilson. They are going to target Wilson. He looked dominant every time they threw him the ball. There was one play that Rodgers underthrew on 3rd down. That was a big play that I know Garrett Wilson wish he had back. And he also got tackled at the 1-yard line, which set up that Breece Hall touchdown. So give me Garrett Wilson. I think they're going to be intentional about trying to get him the ball in the red zone and often. So I like him to get in the end zone. And then we're going to go with Cooper Kupp. I mentioned the 7.5 receptions. Puka Nacua is out. Matthew Stafford loves his Cooper Kupp connection. He looked sharp and healthy. And if you're going to get 7.5 receptions, we're expecting one of them to make it into the end zone. So those would be my top 3 touchdown scores. I did not check with Matty Stats or Mr. No Days Off to confirm those, but they are usually looking at me for who to go with the touchdown score. So let's be honest here. And they can't defend themselves with just me on tonight. So that's it for this week. We've got our Thursday night same game parlay. I gave you some leans for week 2 of the NFL season, and I just broke down our top 3 touchdown scores. We are going to be posting this video shortly, a few hours before the Thursday night kickoff. So if you are listening now, you're going to get some good value on the same game parlay. If you're listening after Thursday Night Football, that's fine too, because we just gave out some great plays for week 2 of the NFL. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, whether you follow or fade our picks, we hope you make some cash. And remember, to be a present parent, you want to make sure to prioritize the important things. We like to lock our bets in early, even before the weekend starts. You get better line value, and you get a chance to be present with your family over the weekend. And so as always, it's about balancing babies and bets. So tune in next week. We're going to do it again.